Pushed into the net by Kylian Mbappe.
Oh, Benyera, beautifully done.
Cornet finds Dembele. The first touch is good. The second is deadly.
Neymar still. Oh my word, what a goal.
Golovin. Lovely finish. Ajax delivery. Guendouzi's header. Here's an opportunity. Sanchez. Outrageous goal from Gael Kakuta. It's Payet again. And Dolberg. Messi again. This time maybe Messi's got it.
With all the layers of a Yevon Diouf goalkeeping era, the longevity of Ajacsio's Cedric Avenel, the spontaneity of a Grosjean Kier goal, and the immaculate timing of the advertising hoardings at the Parc des Princes, as well as the wholesome family values of FC Lorient. Le Beau Jeu team is back again with the latest episode of the official Ligue 1 podcast, and in today's show we're going to look back at all the weekend's action and focus on the good old-fashioned slugfest at the top between giants PSG, Marseille, Lorient and Lens. That's right, today we're going to focus on the strangest top four in Ligue 1's history of the modern game. I'm very happy to say, Robbie Thompson, I am joined by Ligue 1 commentator, senior UEFA.com journalist and all-round polyglot, Ian Holyman. Who have you been interviewing over the last week or so, Ian?
Good question. Hello everyone. I spent a very nice afternoon and got slightly sunburned at Monaco's beautiful training ground with Axel Disasi. I can confirm what everybody knows. He's a big boy. Oh, wow. But very nice. Very nice. And then interviewed the wonderful Dimitri Payet last week as well. So very entertaining. And Igor Tudor. Very entertaining and on good form.
We can find all that, I imagine, on UEFA.com in the lead up to the European matches once again. We're also joined by Luc Entwistle, all-round French football expert, professional journalist based on the Côte d'Azur. Luc, who have you been interviewing lately? Not Axel Disasi as well.
Not Axel Disasi as well, but also at Monaco, predictably. Morning to everyone, by the way. I interviewed Alexander Nubel the other day, also very tall.
This is fascinating insight, listeners.
It's
wow.
a common theme down there. Where can we catch that one, Luke?
That one is on two platforms. That's on Get French Football News and on Monaco Life.
Very good. As always, please follow us, subscribe, share us with your friends. Don't be jealous and try and keep us for yourselves. Rate us. And now you can even catch us on YouTube on the official Ligue 1 official channel. If you want to get in touch, you can do so on Ligue 1_English and Ligue 1 World on Twitter. And you can drop us a line and say hello. Fire us your questions at ligue1podcast@gmail.com. I promise you, we do read them all. Now, on a sad note, it has struck the world of football in the last 24 hours, the tragedy in Indonesia. And we received an email from a regular listener of the pod, Naufal Havid Auladana, who doesn't really know what to say but felt compelled to write in. He said, the last 2 days in Indonesia have been devastating for me and all the people of my country. How could this happen? The loss of more than 120 lives in a football stadium. I'm speechless. Arema FC and Persebaya Surabaya and the tragedy that followed the end of that match at the Kanjuruhan Stadium. Obviously, all our thoughts are with the people, the victims, the families of the victims there. But it's true, it's something that should never happen in a football stadium. It happens too much. And I think we join with the chorus of everyone in world football to just send our condolences to Indonesia and the football family all around the world, because it's always a massive shock when a tragedy like this happens. And good luck to Naufal as well, and the people of Indonesia, our listeners there. So we're back after an international break, and let's get into the action. First up, it was Friday night, Olympique de Marseille versus Angers, and Andreas Evagora, our pod regular, was on commentary.
Lovely turn from Suarez. Jonathan Close, right-footed Close. Jonathan Close goes all the way, tries a left-foot shot, and it's a brilliant finish from the French international. first blood to Marseille. It's their first real chance. But it was a super strike. Jonathan Close, the right-footed player, going down the left and showing he's very much a two-footed player. Marseille take the lead under the driving rain in the west of France. It's Angers 0, Marseille 1. Driving forward Close. Very direct, it's going to come through to Suarez! Well, he wasn't going to miss from there. It was all about the hard work from Jonathan Close, who put it on a plate for Luis Suarez. Our Marseille heading back to the top of the table. PSG beware. It's Angers 0, Marseille 2. Suarez, the header on. Jonathan Close. Is this a third for Marseille? Gigot, of all people, up there. All comes across to Jason. Well, it's clinical stuff from Marseille. They have 3 goals and surely 3 points. And they were toying with Angers there. It's been an excellent second half for Marseille. Their fans surely dreaming of those 3 points now. And Jason just sliding the ball in for his second goal of the season. Another nicely worked move. Samuel Gigot up there, of all people, showing some fancy footwork. Put away by Jason. It's 3 for Marseille, and they're totally dominant. Angers 0, Marseille 3.
So, Jonathan Close with a goal and assists for Luis Suarez and Gerson. Is it fair to say, Ian Holyman, that Jonathan Close was the difference in this match? And could he prove yet to be the difference for France's World Cup? Because France are struggling a little bit, and here you have a player who can do just about everything.
Well, yes, he can, but no, he won't be. I mean, he's a really good player, and there's no doubt about that. And just a little side note on my my Payet interview, waiting for Dimitri Payet. Suddenly the door opens, and I see Valentin Rongier and Jonathan Close walk in, and they come in and shake hands and like, where do we go? I'm like, we're not waiting for you. We're waiting for Dimitri Payet. So the wires got crossed there somewhere, but he didn't take it badly. Neither of them did. They just headed off to the press conference centre. I mean, Close, he's yeah, come on, he's done it against Angers. It's a great individual performance. He's been involved in 21 goals in the league. 6 scored, 15 assists. That's where his real value comes to Marseille. That's why they wanted him. That's the value that he showed at Lens. I don't know, quite frankly, if he can replicate that at international level. I saw him playing for France against Austria, and I just don't think he's quite that level. Actually, he's just a little bit under it. He's a very, very, very good Ligue 1 player. He's got a fabulous backstory. He's just turned 30, but he's only really been around the top level for the last three years. He was at Strasbourg as a kid, got dropped from there, went to play in the 6th division in Germany, which would serve him well later in his career. He signed his first professional deal with Queville in Rouen, which is just up the road from where I live, when he was 24. So you think already that sort of barge, bus, train is gone. He's not going to make it to the big time. And then he sort of dots around a little bit, does all right, and then moves to Arminia Bielefeld, of all places. And only because a move to Dynamo Brest in Belarus falls through. And in Bielefeld, he turns things upside down in the Bundesliga 2nd division, gets them promotion to the top flight, moves to Lens on a free, doesn't play in the top flight, makes his Ligue 1 debut, or his top flight debut, I think he's 28 when he does that, and he gets called up for France in March last year at 29. So he just turned 30, playing in the Champions League this season. It's an incredible story, but no, I'm afraid that Jonathan Close is not going to be the difference between France making it a successful title defence in Qatar and not, unfortunately for them.
Ian, the Grinch who stole Christmas, Holyman, is back.
Well, I just like to tell it like it is, guys. I mean, he's a really good player, but no, he's not gonna do it. I'm afraid he's not gonna do it.
I do think, though, that he will start almost by default, just because of the fact that no one else has proved themselves at right back for France on a regular basis. So I think he will start in that first game in the World Cup. I think that's not a ridiculous thing to say. But yeah, agree with you in that I don't think he's gonna prove the difference over the long run, especially when it goes deeper into the competition. You get up against those bigger teams. He won't be the difference maker, even if he is a starter.
Yeah, I think
Well,
what I was going to say, Robbie. Sorry, what's interesting is Luke said by default, which is interesting, and really Klose has to play in a back with a back three. He's not going to. He isn't a right back. He's a right wing back. That's very much that's a very crucial point. He's not there to defend. If Deschamps goes with a back four, Klose is not going to play. Benjamin Pavard will play at right back, even though he wants to play centre back, a little bit like Lilian Thuram all those years ago. Thought what was interesting about Friday's performance from Jonathan Klose is that he produced that at left wing back because Nuno Tavares was suspended, and I've seen that happen in the Champions League, notably this season. Klose has been moved around, and he didn't perform when he went over onto the left. He looked totally out of sorts and literally like out of position. But on Friday night, it all seemed to come together. That said, it was against Angers. They're having an absolutely appalling season. Marseille have got plenty of quality to beat Angers, even without Jonathan Klose pulling out what we could describe as a master Klose, if you like, at the Stade Raymond Coppa. I mean, yeah, he's a really good player. He's got an amazing story, an inspirational story for any footballer who's still struggling out there at the age of 24, 25 in the lower ranks of French football. You can still make it to the French national team. That's quite incredible. But unfortunately, he's not going to be a World Cup winner.
It is a fantastic backstory, as Ian Holyman said. That first game, Luke Entwistle, is obviously against Australia at the World Cup on the 22nd of November for the French. So Jonathan Klose won't have it all his own way, obviously, in that one up against the Socceroos. Perhaps I'll come around to your way of thinking there, Ian Holyman, that the French could find the going tough. No, I think he's had an amazing run over the last 3 years. I think it's fantastic to see, and I think what I love is the fact that we keep learning more and more about him. Now we've learned that he actually doesn't have two right feet, that he does have a left foot as well, because it was a left-footed strike for the goal, and I think he's going from strength to strength. What I love, and we see a player like this every now and again, is one who hasn't come through the French system, which is a very formatted, fantastic youth system that produces so many fantastic footballers that can just go and play anywhere around the world. This kid's got character, or this man now has character, and I think if he can play with that freedom and fit in and be accepted by the big guns in Les Bleus, it could make for something pretty spectacular. On Saturday afternoon, Rennes piled on more misery onto their ex-coach Julien Stéphan. It was Arni Kalimwendo this time that had the master Klose, if you like. He became the first player born in 2002 or after to reach 20 goals in Europe's top 5 leagues. He was a goal scorer and double assist provider as well. Rennes finding a little bit of form. For the moment, they're exchanging wins and draws, but they're not losing again, which is good for Pep Genesio's side. And it's another defeat for Strasbourg. Now, gentlemen, I'll go to you first, Luke, because Strasbourg, I really don't think anyone was expecting this at the start of the season. We've spoken about it week in, week out. But now I want to try and turn this around and think of reasons why Strasbourg are not in that much trouble. Why can Strasbourg survive the drop? They're the only side after 9 games without a win so far this season.
Quite simply because there are 4 worse teams. I think when you look on paper, there are 4 definitely worse teams than Strasbourg. It's not clicking for them so far, and I'm not sure what it will take for them to click at all. But when you just look in the table there, and some of the fixtures that Strasbourg have had as well, I think you can see that they will get out of it. I mean, I remember you said, what can they believe? What do they need to believe? And it's not going to be a European challenge like it was last season for them, but nor do I think it's going to be necessarily a big relegation battle. I think they'll finish comfortably mid-table just by virtue of the quality that is there within the squad and the fact that there are some teams in the league who are definitely worse than them.
Well, I think it's time for our weekly throwing Angus Turod under the bus, suggesting that they would finish in the top three. They're still very much outsiders, as has been previously mentioned, very, very outside that. I think there's actually a number of reasons, if I may. Red card in 3 of the last 4 games isn't going to help, and Jezino Nyamsi got sent off against his former club at the weekend, and Julien Stéphan was not a happy boy.
Kicking the ball.
Well, exactly. This is, again, it's another one of these red cards. And the thing is, during the international break, there was a meeting between the referees and the Ligue 1 coaches to try and explain these red cards. You may remember the Bradley Loco red card where he got sent off against Monaco for just following. He was just kicking the ball, clearing it.
The ball.
Briel Mbola came across, and as Loco's foot naturally went to ground due to gravity, thank you, Mr. Newton, he caught Mbola on the Achilles. He got sent off. Niamsi did exactly the same with Benjamin Beau Jeu on Saturday. His foot, and Niamsi's very, very tall, much taller than Beau Jeu, so Niamsi's foot ended up at the top of Beau Jeu's thigh. Didn't particularly do any damage. He didn't. It's not like he followed through with any venom to really hurt Beau Jeu, his former teammate. Let's remember, and he got sent off, and that really did change things because Strasbourg had played pretty well up till then. I think that they've got immense quality. Habib Diallo, he's got 4 of their goals. There's a problem. 4 of their 7 goals this season. Everybody else has got 1. Ludovic Ajorc is not firing as he did last season. They've got a fabulous goalkeeper, Matt Sells. He made a number of saves against, it has to be said, a Rennes side that's really, really coming into form. And if you like football, and we're talking about Pep Genesio, look at Rennes' 3rd goal. It's a thing of beauty. Little interpassing play between Guiri and Kalimuendo. That looks like it could be a very, very fruitful partnership for Rennes. And just maybe one more thing, one more bone, and a fairly large one to throw Strasbourg fans. Brest, last season, didn't win until, anybody? Week 12 of the season. So Strasbourg, and they finished comfortably mid-table in the end. So there's plenty of reason to hope.
I love the fact that Ian Holyman has just added more credence to my belief that no matter what happens and all the outrage or the carry on about, my God, we're witnessing history, or this is unbelievable, this is the worst team we've ever seen, this is the most, everything's are always extremes. There is always a precedent. And in this case, for Strasbourg, the precedent was just last year, and they've got another 3 games up their sleeve. So they shouldn't be panicking at all. What I would say, and it sums up more or less what the pair of you have said, is they've only lost 4 games. They've only won 1, yes. But they've only lost 4, which is the same number of defeats as Olympique Lyonnais. Problem for Olympique Lyonnais is it's their last 4 as well. But Strasbourg have only lost 4. They've drawn 5. They're not on the bottom, despite being the only side without a win. And that shows that they are not out of matches. They are not losing every match like an Ajaccio, like an Angers, who are being played off the park more weekends than not. This is a side that are in the contest, that are in contests, and sooner or later, it's going to turn in their favour.
Agreed.
Next up, on Saturday night, Paris Saint-Germain were taking on OGC Nice at the Parc des Princes, and Matt Spiro had all the action.
Barkley's pass has only found Messi. Messi running at the defence, and he's taken out right on the edge of the box. Dante gets a yellow card. He takes it for the team effectively because Messi was bearing down on goal had he not made that challenge. Neymar steps away. Messi takes, and Messi has just stroked it beautifully into the corner. Just a sensational technique and a sensational footballer. Paris Saint-Germain take the lead. Attal was making a good run forward. He's had to come back now. The cross, though, is a good one. Great chance, and Nice have levelled it. Gaëtan Laborde pouncing on the loose ball after Youssouf Attal's cross has caused the PSG defence all kinds of problems. Well, perfect start to the second period for Nice. And Gaëtan Laborde with his first league goal for Les Aiglons. Having joined the club late in August from Rennes. He wasn't going to turn down that opportunity. Ekitike, well played by Dante. Sofiane Diop now. Well played by Diop. This is Ramsey. Diop again. Youssouf Attal crossing far post. Melvin Bart. Chance for Melvin Bart. On his weaker right foot, he couldn't quite control the shot, but all of a sudden it's Nice who are on the front foot and asking questions of this PSG defence. Nice getting numbers back now. Attal can't dispossess Messi though. Messi drawing the foul from Mario Lemina. Play on, says the referee. He's playing advantage. Messi. Now Vitinha, shot on for Vitinha. It's foot wide of that far post. And it's time for Kylian Mbappe. We'll see more, I'm sure, of Hugo Ekitike in the coming weeks and months. Juan Bernat also sacrificed as Nuno Mendes comes on. Vitinha to Neymar. Good run forward this from Achraf Hakimi. He's taking it in his stride as well. Mbappe in the middle. Hakimi decides to come back for Neymar, and Neymar's shot is over. More zip about Paris Saint-Germain since Mbappe has come on. Hakimi. Messi, great ball. Nuno Mendes in the clear. Schmeichel with the save. Well, that was incisive from Paris Saint-Germain, and Nuno Mendes providing an outlet on that left-hand side. Schmeichel out towards Melvin Bard. PSG winning high up the pitch, and Mukiele now. Mukiele's pass, Mbappe's goal! Kylian Mbappe strokes it into the net. Honours a substitute in this second half, and Paris Saint-Germain's saviour once again is Kylian Mbappe. The PSG number 7, who couldn't beat Kasper Schmeichel whilst playing for France against Denmark, has beaten him here. That's frustrating for Nice, who've done so well in this second half. But Mbappe may well have had the final say.
So a 60th free kick goal in the career of Lionel Messi, a first for Paris Saint-Germain to go with 50 for his former club in Spain, I think it was, and 9 for his national team, Argentina. Gaëtan Laborde got back on level terms for Nice just after the halftime break, as we just heard. His first goal for Nice before Kylian Mbappe putting all the dramas of national team duty and a few loose tongues around the rumour mill that is Paris Saint-Germain week in, week out to get his 8th goal of the season. It's his 11th in 10 matches with Paris Saint-Germain in all competitions this season. But possibly the most remarkable thing about all this, Luke Entwistle, was that when Messi hit the free kick, all the advertising hoardings around the stadium changed to show the word GOAT, just as the ball left his left boot and curled up over the wall and into the top corner. And yes, GOAT is one of Paris Saint-Germain's major sponsors this season, but it was clearly he still has it. He can influence things well beyond just a football.
Are we saying that he changed advertising hoardings? Is that Is that the line? Well, I mean, it's not the first time this happened. Well, not quite, but in the same breath as well, I saw a video of him coming off the pitch during a training session, and it's a sleeve sponsor as well. And he was the only one who had the GOAT sponsor, I believe, on his sleeve when he came off, which was also quite amusing, I thought. But yeah, I mean, we've spoken quite a lot about Messi this season, and what we keep doing is comparing him to the Messi that we saw last season, which is a completely different Messi. He just looks very much at ease now. He's spoken about it, saying that he feels more comfortable in the side. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these moments, especially with the World Cup coming up. I feel as though he's very, very, very motivated by the national team. Probably his last opportunity to win the World Cup with Argentina. And he's just looking more like the Messi that we've known for the past decade. And for PSG, that's a very positive thing.
Ian, Christophe Galtier after the match said that Messi could yet re-become the best player in the world if he wanted to. I'm not sure if Kylian was listening and what Kylian thought about that, but do you agree that this could yet happen once again for the little flea?
Why do you always come to me when I have to sort of dampen everybody's enthusiasm about this? No, I mean, probably not. I mean, let's just switch leagues and let's see what Erling Haaland is doing at Manchester City right now. I mean, I think the rest of the decade is going to belong.
He doesn't touch the ball in the build-up, Ian. Haaland hardly touches the football. He has no influence on the game.
No, apart from the 3 goals that he scored in a 6-3 win. Anyway, but apart from the goals, obviously, yes, useless. He's only got 17 in about 5 minutes. But I think that the decade's going to belong to Mbappe and Haaland. I think that's pretty clear. That's the new Ronaldo Messi debate. Which one do you prefer? But I think what there is no doubt is that we've got a Lionel Messi who's just a lot better, a lot happier, as Luke says, a lot better in form than he was last season. And I think he's sort of come to terms with the fact that he's at PSG. Let's see what happens in the next few months when we start to talk about end of contract, etc., etc. But he's got 5 goals already as well this season. He got 6 in the whole of last season. When did we see Messi bend in a free kick last season? Well, we didn't. I mean, he's looking more like himself. But to say that he's going to become the best player in the world again, I think it's a little bit of a stretch. But it's no big. I'm not really sticking my neck out to say he's definitely still one of the best players in the world. Should we just go with that?
He did hit the crossbar about 6 times with free kicks last season, though. I mean, he wasn't far away. Another interesting stat to come out of the game was that Sergio Ramos has now played 21 Ligue matches and not lost any of them. He equals a record, the Ligue 1 record, going back to record starting in 1947, of Juan Pablo Sorin, who also went 21 matches for Paris Saint-Germain in, I think it was the 2003-04 season, where he played his one season with Paris Saint-Germain and never tasted defeat in that season before leaving. So Sergio Ramos, a fantastic little record for him. Luke, a word about the opposition. There was so much talk about Lucien Favre that he was going to be on his way out. There was talk that Mauricio Pochettino could be the man coming in to replace him. The club came out and said, no, we're very happy. Lucien Favre came out and said, look, there's no problem. We're working through this. Has that all subsided now? And was this a good enough performance to think that Favre's future still lies at Allianz Riviera?
I mean, yeah, starting with the performance, I thought they played pretty well throughout the match and thought they were quite unlucky not to take anything from it. I think it wasn't the most inspiring attacking performance, but not many teams do provide that kind of inspiring attacking performance when you go to the Parc des Princes. So I thought defensively very, very solid. And then when they were in the transitions, they were very quick. Looked like it was all kind of pieced together pretty well for the first time this season. So I thought they were very unlucky, and they didn't allow PSG to get to the byline too often. The one time they did, obviously, cut back to Mbappe, and he did the rest as he often does. Is it enough to save him and his job? It's difficult to say because he needs to probably go on a run at this point. There's a lot of rumours going around during the international break that not only were they in discussion with Mauricio Pochettino, but also that Favre himself wasn't happy. And Favre has looked frustrated in the press conferences I've been in. just in his general demeanour, doesn't look 100% happy. He doesn't seem to have maybe been very, very involved in the recruitment process. At Gates on the Board's unveiling, Gates on the Board walks away after having done his bit, and Favre goes over and says, 28 years old, as if he didn't know that he was 28 years old. And then when asked about what's Barkley's best position, he kind of shrugged a little bit and said, well, I've been told he's a number 8, as if I was nothing to do with this, but here he is. So there's a little bit of that. It's not just Nice are unhappy with Favre. Favre is also unhappy with Nice, it feels. But in football, it's results that matter. And I think results can very, very quickly change the mood around the place. So if they have a good run now between now and the World Cup, that'll do a lot to settle things, and we'll just see. But yeah, I think it's very, very results dependent.
Ian, a word in the build up to this, and perhaps looking to last season as well, or even since Ineos took over at Nice. It hasn't just bedded in. It hasn't been a marriage made in heaven so far for Ineos. They did make a cup final last year with Nice, which was great, but they've been through a couple of coaches already. And last year, with Julien Fournier and Christophe Galtier, it really didn't work. That all resurfaced in the week leading up to this match. Have we heard the end of that? Because there were some pretty serious allegations that were not overtly said, but underneath, going on underneath was some fairly serious allegations against Christophe Galtier. Have we heard the end of that?
Yeah, there's clearly a lot of animosity, I think, particularly from Fournier towards Galtier. Fournier suggesting that if he gave the real reason for their falling out, then Christophe would never enter a dressing room in France again, which is, well, bold.
Basically said he would never coach again in Europe, didn't he?
Exactly.
He said he wouldn't coach again in Europe.
Let's not get into the allegations behind that. He didn't explain it, Fournier, and there's been a lot of speculation and about what he actually meant. Since Jean-Pierre River, who's, it has to be said, the consummate politician president, came out and said, "Oh, there's nothing to see here. It doesn't. No, come on." I talked to Julien. He admitted he'd perhaps not expressed himself well. I think that's fair to say that perhaps he didn't express himself well. If you're going to go that far, then you might want to, back it up, because that's quite a thing to say. But I mean, honestly, let's just move on, shall we not? Galtier's PSG boss. Fournier's got a new job at Parma. I'm sure that he was fairly bitter after sort of feeling like he was forced out of Nice after 11 years there. He's done a tremendous job by all accounts, not only in terms of helping build a fairly successful team under, for example, Claude Puel and Lucien Favre in his first spell there, but also helping build the club from within, the training ground. He's the new stadium. He's been one of the driving forces behind Nice becoming kind of what they were just before Ineos took over. So no wonder he's a little bit sour at having left. But he's got a nice new job in Parma. I wouldn't mind a little spell down there as well. The food must be magnificent, as well as I can't imagine he's on the minimum wage there either. So, and a very nice place to live. So, these things happen in football. People fall out. It's very much a sport in which egos play huge egos play a huge role. And I think that's probably what it came down to more than anything else in the end.
And just on Fournier, he has not been replaced. That's another major issue at Nice, is that they still don't have a sporting director. They had Ian Moody, who came in to manage that transfer window. He will not be the sporting director. The will of the club is to keep him around the club, but not in that role. So it's, once again, it's not the only club in Ligue, and let's not kid ourselves, but there is a little bit of uncertainty in the hierarchy of the club. And I think that doesn't necessarily...
Oh, they brought in Dave Brailsford as well, didn't they?
Although his role isn't necessarily that. They are very much looking for a director, and they've just elected someone else in another kind of board level position. So there's a lot of moving parts still at Nice. Ineos have been there for a few years now, but it feels as though it's changing hands a little bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation, because it's a project whereby Ineos have got already a couple of football clubs playing in, elite football in Europe. They've got their cycling team. They've got a sailing team as well, which is elite sailing. And all of this, they're trying to bring it all together, aren't they? And create this sort of synergy between all these different fields. So, perhaps it is just teething problems. Perhaps they're trying to do something revolutionary here and create this sort of omni-sport. But we've seen basketball and football and handball in the past with clubs. Paris Saint-Germain even have a judo department these days. But this is Ineos are looking to take that sort of big-time next level. You're listening to no big egos here, of course, as Ian Holyman was talking about football. Ian Holyman, Luke Entwistle, and myself, Robbie Thompson, on Le Beau Jeu. Now it's time for Deja Who, and first of all, just to prove that we're not all big egos here, I have a mea culpa. After last month, the third and final Deja Who of September, I don't think was good enough. We had very, very few correct answers, and looking back over the clues, I just think it was too vague, not serious enough. Didn't give you enough clues, not enough to go on. So I do apologize for that. I still haven't decided right to this very minute whether I tell you what the answer was, because I may need to reuse it and come up with new clues. But we do have a winner for the September shirt, all the same, notwithstanding that third and final clue. The first answer was Rod Fanny, who ended his career with Toronto in Canada. And of course, the bonus question was he denied Lucas Moura that goal of the century in Le Classique, where Lucas Moura basically charged 70 metres upfield right through the heart of the Marseille defence, chipped the ball over Steve Mondonda, and just as it was about to cross the line, Rod Fanny came sliding in from nowhere to clear. So that was the first one. The second one was Nicolas Anelka, who'd won just about everything there was to win before the age of 22. And the bonus question was, of course, he was sent home from the World Cup in disgrace in 2010 for a halftime blow-up against Mexico. It was 0-0 at the time. It ended 2-0 to Mexico. France were kicked out of the tournament without a win in the group stage and came home with their tails between their legs and certainly not on a bus. The third player, I'll tell you who it was. A couple of people did get it right. It was Adrien Rabiot. And the thing that all three players had in common, and this was another little difficult clue, was that they'd all been called up and they were all reserves for World Cups in history. Anelka was one of the first ever French reservists, if you like, from 1998, when Jacquet got rid of 6 players on the eve of the tournament, and that made a huge impact in France. Rod Fanny was a reservist in 2010, and Adrien Rabiot, of course, who stormed out and said, I'm not going to be a reserve for anyone, in 2018, when he was not chosen in that squad that went on, of course, to win the World Cup. So a winner is Sean Patrick, who got the first 2. I'm just trying to think if he got the third one. He may well have done. So well done, Sean Patrick. And now get in contact with us, send us an email, and we'll work out your shirt, your Ligue 1 shirt that you've won this month. And let's head straight in then to the Deja Who, the first of 4 in October. And I'll try and be a little bit more precise. Who am I? I was born and raised in the Paris suburbs. A highly rated youth player, I signed my first professional contract away from the capital and made my Ligue 1 debut at just 17 years of age. It wasn't long before I was making history. Bursting onto the national scene was quickly followed by a big money move, and that by a first overseas experience. It wasn't until I returned to France, however, that I won my first silverware, including the championship and a League Cup. I also cemented my place in the France national team, with whom I made 24 appearances and played in my one and only international tournament. My unsettled career continued before a spell on the other side of the Atlantic brought a third championship winners' medal and cup glory there, as well as a serious injury. I bounced back in the French second division, and I'm still playing second-tier football today, but not in France. Who am I? And what 2 records do I hold in Ligue 1 history? There we go. Was that too long, Ian? I have a feeling I went for about another 3 minutes there.
But plenty of clues in there. Plenty of clues. I started off on one guy, but it's not him. So I'll have to give that a bit of thought.
It can't be too easy. If you know who the mystery player is, send us an email with who it is and the bonus question to league1podcast@gmail.com, and you could go into the draw for the October jersey.
I'd just
Next
like to
match
highlight I did
was
the one time that I get one.
Very good. Excellent. So everyone listening, there is hope even when you feel that, sometimes these are getting the better of you. Like, keep plugging away and sooner or later, one will come, like Luke has experienced the joy of getting the Nicholas Anelka Deja Who in September. Moving on, though, our next featured match, and we're going through those top 4, of course. The huge surprise of this season, we've been talking about it every week. FC Lorient were taking on Lille, and Jeremy Clayman was looking to see if Les Merlus, the Hake, would continue their best ever start to a Ligue 1 season.
Quick touch from Ponceau, who plays it inside. Diarra across, and it's an own goal! Well, Diarra takes the acclaim of Le Moustoir, but it's another horror show for Losk at the back. And now the ball slipped through beautifully. It's got to be Jonathan David on the mark. A sumptuous team move brings Les Dogs level. Brilliant play from Ararunas. Again, the fire starter finding the run of Bamba on his 200th Ligue 1 appearance. And it's a tap-in for Jonathan David. His 6th goal of the season. Do Lorient have a late twist in mind? Theo Lebris. He's done it! Well, I wondered if there was to be a twist in the tail, and that could be a dramatic one. Well, his uncle looks calm on the sidelines, but everyone else in Le Moustoir has gone absolutely wild for Theo Lebris. A brilliant take, and in the blink of an eye, he was away from Zadadka. And the 20-year-old with his first goal in Ligue 1 Uber Eats, and a priceless one for the 10-man Merlu.
Now, guys, this is an open question to both of you. You can jump in. There were some incredible scenes, as we just heard in the commentary. Theo Lebris, the nephew of the coach, Régis. I think it was his 5th appearance in ever off the bench, 4th or 5th appearance for the Lorient first team. He brought the ball down with his first touch. With his second touch, he took it past his marker, bore down on goal to score the winner at home. This is an incredible story. At what point, because we're a quarter of the way through the season now, at what point are we going to start taking Lorient seriously, Ian Holyman?
Again? Do I have to? Really? I sound just like...
Okay, stop. Luke, stop. No, that's okay. Luke, step in and build this up even more. Are Lorient going to do this? Can they do it? Of course
they can. So they're going to win the league, obviously. Pip in PSG on the final day of the season. I think that's the answer you want. I'm not sure if that's the answer, the most truthful answer I've ever given. Do they have all the components? Probably not. They have a lot of young players doing a lot of really, really good work. I mean, Enzo Lefebvre's had a great start to the season, in particular. Mofi, Ouattara. These are all great players, but you can't necessarily say these are going to have a consistent season and continue that all the way through. The young players, they're going to all have dips in form. They could even all coincide with each other, and that would be quite problematic for Lorient if that was the case. So, obviously, the main thing for them is that we all pipped them for relegation. and I don't think we will be. So that's the main positive, and I think that they'll probably be top half.
Well, I think from what I've seen so far, it's a question of depth, isn't it? We said it at the start of the season. We always have a surprise packet that makes it sometimes through to Christmas. I mean, Nice 6 or 7 years ago was sitting top, I think, of the league at Christmas one season. This side have started with nine of the starting 11 have been the same every single match this season. I don't know if I've expressed that the best possible way, but basically he's got 11 players, Régis Lebris, and they are playing out of their skin. We saw another terrible red card for Ouattara. I mean, this was tough on him as well, I felt. But Ian, I tend to agree with you a little bit on this one. I'd be very, very surprised if naive Luke's prediction came through that Lorient were to win the league. But what do you see? I mean, they take nothing away from the fact that they're doing a fantastic job, a brilliant job, really. It is the feel-good story of the summer in France.
Absolutely, and I have to admit, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for them because they try to play football. They're not just like punt it up the park and let some guy chase after it and try and score and create a chance and just wreak havoc. No, they try and play, and I think that you hit the nail on the head. That the problem for them is strength in depth. That there isn't any. They have got that brilliant core. They've got young players now. Young players again can tend to go off the boil. Will they all go off the boil at the same time? But they do have some really good prospects, but I just don't think they're going to have that consistency. They've not got that strength in depth to cover for suspensions, for example, to cover for injuries. When they sort of creep in, I admit the long break for the World Cup is probably going to help a team like Lorient. It's going to help a team like Lens because most of their players are not going to go to the World Cup, and they're going to get a decent rest. Then they're going to get the chance to train again. It's going to be a new pre-season. And they're only going to have to play basically half a season, a little bit more and so we could see a bit of a surprise in the table in those terms. But I still think that they just don't have the strength and depth. Just one name to mention: Edmond Ene. Heard of him? Me neither. Toulouse boss in 1947. He's the only French coach to have made a better start to his career than Régis Lebris. I mean, that's pretty...
start to a Ligue 1 season, wasn't it? Points starts to any Ligue 1 season, wasn't it?
No, it's to his coaching career. To his coaching career.
Yeah,
in Ligue 1, yeah. So that tells you the sort of scale of the achievement. They are playing with a lot of young players. Lorient, there's another stat, have scored with 3 players born in 2002 or later. That's Ouattara, Johan Kathleen and the aforementioned Theo Lebris. Only Rennes have done better, and Rennes, of course, with a huge pedigree of bringing through quality young players. So it is very exciting. It's great to see them up there. It just does change many things. It's just a bit of a refresh for us all. But unfortunately, again, I'm going to have to be the killjoy. This seems to be my role today. They're not going to finish in the top 3. And quite frankly, I don't think it would be a good thing for Lorient to finish in the top 3. And I don't think it'd be a great thing for French football in terms of the coefficient, because Lorient would need to spend money that they just do not have to get players that they normally wouldn't be able to get for potentially Champions League group stage, and they might not make it, and then I think they'd be in a huge amount of trouble. So I think even a European place would be a bit of a stretch for them. Let's hope that they can build on this, and maybe next season or the season after, then they can maybe push for a European place if they can keep this core of very good young players together.
Well, Enzo Lefebvre may not agree with Ian Holyman's downing of fairy tales and not believing in Christmas. Lefebvre, of course, meaning fairy, I guess it's fairy in the translation.
It is.
He's actually got a fantastic backstory, or not a fantastic backstory. He's got a very interesting backstory, Enzo Lefebvre, and I'll do a bit more research before on the ins and outs of that story with his dad, his relationship with his dad, and he's done very well to make it this far. Enzo Lefebvre, and he's without a doubt having the best season of his career as well. A young man who's had to grow up fast on the football pitch and off it as well, and he's doing a fantastic job. Speaking of doing a fantastic job, the performance of the weekend, I didn't discuss this with my acolytes before deciding that it was Wissam Ben Yedder who scored his first hat-trick of the season. He'd only scored one goal before this weekend for AS Monaco this season. A 4-1 win. They absolutely just wiped the floor with Nantes, particularly in the first half. I think it was 3-0 inside 27 or 28 minutes. It was the 100th meeting between the two sides, and Monaco just did the business with a fifth career hat-trick in French football for Wissam Ben Yedder. He's got 66 goals for Monaco. He's overtaken Radamel Falcao as the top scorer since the turn of the century for the club. Luke, he's been dropped from the France World Cup squad, but since we're on a theme, just quickly, could this be a weekend that sees him throw his hat back into the ring?
I think he's always there or thereabouts. He's probably in the top 5 most clinical strikers in the league. He could be the most clinical striker in the league. He just doesn't really miss. The issue has been for him this season so far is that he hasn't really had the opportunities, whether or not that is because of the system around him or whether it's because he's just not been, whether he's not been clinical. I don't think that's the case. I think it's just that the chances haven't fallen to him. And I think that with Breel Mbolo next to him, I think it could be a really good thing for him because he does a lot of the work and he works well with him. Can he get back into the France squad? It's difficult because it's clear that Mbappe likes a Giroud type. Maybe not Benzema, but you've got Benzema and you've got Giroud already. And really, I would say that those two are pretty, you bank on them being in the squad. So then it's the question of, can you afford to have another out-and-out number 9 when you've got all of those wingers and all of those other very, very talented players around that front line who can do different things? I think that's his difficulty, is that he's a very, very good player who is looking to get into the France squad and looking to be a French international starter at just the wrong time.
Next, along with performance of the week, goal of the week. Ian Holyman, you were producing the international highlights show yesterday evening. You gave it to Lionel Messi for his free kick. Who else was in the mix then? Because Messi's goal was magnificent. You mentioned Terrier's goal in terms of a team move. And I liked Grosjean Kier's, probably not filmed the best, because I think when you saw that first goal, no one realized what had happened. It was the most deceptive overhead kick I think I've ever seen in my life, because at first I didn't think it was Grosjean Kier and I thought it was a header.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a header too. I watched it on the replay and thought, hang on, that's a really very, very good goal. That was Clermont. Yeah, I have to say I was very surprised when you came out with Ajaccio and Clermont in the intro after Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe score. That was bold. But it was a really, really good goal, and Clermont with a good win. Ajaccio in a lot of trouble, which is a shame because I would like Ajaccio to stay up, but purely for selfish reasons, because I'd very much like to go and do a commentary there, because Corsica's absolutely wonderful and that stadium looks really cool. And I've never done one there. I've done one in Bastia before, but yeah, Ajaccio looks like a great place to go, but they just don't have the quality, and Clermont were too good for them. And you also mentioned Cedric Avinel in the yes. in the intro. Now this is a player. If he's flown under,
it was close to goal of the week.
Well, he was close to the goal, and he very nearly missed it. If this man has flown under your radar, please don't feel ashamed. He's 36. He was playing his I think 5th Ligue 1 game yesterday against Clermont, and he equalised for Ajaccio with he was about 30 centimetres from an open goal, managed to hit it off the crossbar, but still managed to scramble it in. I was very happy for him. But Clermont coming through with Rashani and Dosu late on, and I think Ajaccio are stitched on to be one of those bottom 4 teams, aren't they?
Stat of the week this week, number 5. There are 5 players since 2006 to have scored, provided an assist, and then been sent off in a Ligue 1 match. Yesterday, Junya Ito of Reims, and continuing Reims' unbelievable ability to have players sent off this season. I mean, we're talking about getting sent off. I think that's their 6th game in which they've had a player sent off out of 9. And I was having a look at the red card statistics, but I'll keep that up my sleeve. The other 4 players since 2006 to have scored, assisted, and been sent off. He's keeping some quite good company here. James Lea Saliki with Rennes, Mamadou Bagayoko with Nantes, Cheick Diabate with Bordeaux, and of course, 4 years ago, Kylian Mbappe was also scored, assisted, and then sent off.
I just like to add one more and a kind of assist. Guillermo Maripan this season against Troyes scored, conceded a penalty, and was then sent off. I mean, he's got an assist of sorts, isn't he?
Our last game that we're going to have a look at and listen to live commentary was Mr. Holyman's game on the weekend. It was the final match of the round. It was the final side looking to keep pace with the top 3 to maintain that leading quartet at the top of the table. Lens were at home in a fantastic atmosphere, taking on Olympique Lyonnais, and Mr. Holyman was there.
And now Lens can break. Openda does well. Suck Diamande in and skip by him. And the ball back from Medina. Great start by Lopez. Here's Cabo. It's not a bad ball and a chance. Brilliant start from Lopez this time. Openda denied. Cabo's ball in was superb. Openda had all the space and time he needed. Cabo's ball in. Handball, says Medina. And Mr. Bastien agrees. It's a penalty for Lens. And it looks like it struck Thiago Mendes on the arm. It did indeed. And that will be a penalty. Already scored 1 penalty this season. He's got another. Florian Satoka buries it from the spot. And Lens finally have the breakthrough with just some 10 minutes to go.
So, Ian, that's 4 losses in a row now for Olympique Lyonnais. Florian Sotoka with the penalty late on to win it, but it finished 1-0 with a penalty, but really Lens deserved winners.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If they should have been a couple up at half time at the very least. They had chances in the second half as well. They were so much better than Lyon. So much better. Lyon look lackluster is an understatement. Jean-Michel Aulas admitted that during the international break they considered firing Peter Bosz. That was after 3 successive defeats. No, I'm not sure, unfortunately, because I like him very much. I'm not sure that Peter Bosz is going to last much longer as the boss of Lyon. Not so much in terms of the results, let's say, because they've lost to PSG, Monaco, Lorient, and now Lens. So some of the best teams in the division, and they'd started well, but they were kind of what we call in cricket flat track bullies. They beat teams that they should have beaten anyway. And it kind of masked a number of problems. And I think that the biggest problem was just the lack of intensity. And that was the really huge difference between the two. Lens were just all over Lyon all the time. I mean, yes, the crowd plays a big part in that, but you had a counter-attack in the first half. And I think this tells you a lot how Lens play and a lot about the determination of this Lens side. You had a counter-attack. It was led by Satoka just from outside of his own penalty area, played it forward to Luis Openda. Openda then plays it into the middle. And who is the man charging through on his own in the middle? It's Facundo Medina. He is the left-sided centre-back of 3. What on earth was he doing there? And Lopez made a great save. But what was he doing there? It should have been, you'd have thought it'd be a winger. No, it was their centre-back. So that just shows the determination of this Lens side. It was a brilliant move. It's a shame it didn't end in a goal. At least for me and as a neutral and the Lens fans. But It was a great performance by Lens, and if you're talking about real deals, Lens are more of a real deal than Lorient. They're not going to finish in the top 3, Lens, I'll say that now, but they are surely going to finish in the European places this season.
Well, there are 3 teams undefeated after 9 games. This has never happened before in the history, so this is unprecedented. For now, anyway, in the history of French football, Paris Saint-Germain, Marseille and Lens all undefeated. They are 3 of the top 4 along with Lorient. Luke Entwistle, do you have anything you'd quickly like to add before we start wrapping up results?
Yeah, just similarly to Nice, another one of those teams that don't have all of the parts in place. I think that whole John Textor sale, I think, really looms over them like a bit of a cloud. I think the sooner that gets sorted, the better. And it's also just, once again,
it's just been pushed back again, hasn't it? It's just been pushed back, and I think Ola said another month.
I saw something about the 21st of October, so that's going to basically loom over them basically from here until the World Cup. Because I see that being pushed back. So that's a real issue for them. And once again, you say that Lens look more like the real deal, but they do so on such a smaller budget, such historically a big club, but not as big as Lyon. Yet they seem to be able to get the results. And it's once again a case of, you look at Lyon's squad, you look at Lens' squad, you say all the stars are in the Lyon squad, but they can't make the pieces fit together. It's all about management and higher up sporting director. It goes all the way up. Peter Bosz probably isn't the right person to have in charge. I think he's lucky to have this season with Lyon, and I think that he could be on his way very, very soon. But yeah, lots and lots of talent, lots of resources, but not necessarily the know-how and how to manage them.
You heard it here first. The coaching merry-go-round could be starting. I'm not sure a couple of these coaches will make it all the way through to the World Cup, even if perhaps the owners won't either. Wrapping up in other results then, Yevan Diouf had a night to forget against his former employers, the former Troyes Academy product, in his first season with Reims, up against his former club with a terrible howler. But at least for him, it ended 2-2 at the end between Troyes and Reims. Cedric Avenal, as we heard, with his first goal for Ajaccio, but all to no avail. Clermont winning out 3-1 in that one in Ajaccio. 10-man Auxerre, 10-man, that's going to be a phrase synonymous with the 2022-23 season. 1-1 with Brest. Slimani opening the scoring before Mbaye scored for the 5th Ligue 1 club of his career. And Toulouse got a 3rd win of the season and a second in 3 with a 4-2 win over Montpellier. Montpellier, who are continuing their historical inability to string together any strong series of results from 1 week to the next. A look at the ladder then. So we know who the top 4 are. PSG with 25 points. Marseille, Lorient and Lens are the top 4. Monaco, I assume they or Rennes were the sides that are going to force Lens out of the top 3 for Ian Holyman, because we know it's not going to be Lorient. So Monaco 5th. They are already 8 points behind Paris Saint-Germain, though. Rennes are 6th. Then come Olympique Lyonnais and Lille, with Clermont Foot on 13 points. Montpellier, Troyes are 11th in the second half of the table. Toulouse, then there's 3 points from 12th place Toulouse to 13th place Nice on 8 points. Auxerre and Angers also have 8. Nantes, the reigning cup winners, have 7 points. That's the same number as Reims, who are in 17th and the first of the relegation spots. Behind them, Brest, Strasbourg and Ajaccio with just 4 points, a win and a draw and 7 losses for Ajaccio so far this season. Time to look ahead to next week's action then. There's European football in the mix as well before, so no Friday night games. On Saturday, 2 matches as always. Olympique Marseille versus Ajaccio. That's something just about a derby, isn't it? Nearly a Corsican, Mediterranean coast derby, shall we say. Then Reims entertain Paris Saint-Germain. Montpellier are at home to Monaco in the early kickoff game on the Sunday. Nice entertain Troyes. Rennes take on Nantes in a derby match. And Lille take on Lens in the Derby du Nord. So there are some big derby matches. Luke, what takes your fancy?
go for the last one. I like the sound of Lyon. I think that Fonseca needs to start getting some results, and I think that Lens can definitely continue this run. I'm not sure, as we've already said, that they'll get the Champions League, but I think they'll still keep up there, and I think they've got a lot of time to stay within that top 4, top 5. So I think they'll potentially win that. I think it'll be a good game.
Mr. Holyman, bon voyage.
There's plenty of games that I'd really like to see next week. I think Montpellier-Monaco could finish about 7-5 or 5-7, depending on which Montpellier side turns up and which Monaco side turns up. There's plenty of derbies as well. Brest, Lorient, Rennes, Nantes. That's always a good one. I think it's got to be Lille-Lens, hasn't it? Derby du Nord. I know that maybe we're not going to have probably the away fans, unfortunately, but Lens have got an open training session on Wednesday, which I suspect will be an absolute capacity crowd of about 35,000 watching the side train and sending them off to the derby on Sunday. It'll still be a tremendous atmosphere, and I think it'll be a tremendous game as well.
And as I was just looking through the fixtures for this weekend, there is, of course, a Friday night game, which I have just seen, and hence I will say that I'm going there. Olympique Lyonnais versus Toulouse. Lyon looking to break that losing run against a Toulouse side who I think a few of us thought could do something this season and perhaps be that surprise packet coming through. They're starting to find a little bit of form. Montagnier is a great coach. Can they take advantage of this slump that Olympique Lyonnais find themselves in? We'll find out Friday night, that one, 9 p.m. kickoff time in France. Gentlemen, that will do us for today. Thank you very much for joining us on Le Beau Jeu once again. To people listening, don't forget, email us, follow us on Twitter, Ligue 1 World or Ligue 1_English, the official Twitter handle for Ligue 1 in English. Ian Holyman, busy week coming up for you. Enjoy. Plenty of football as always.
Thank you, I will do.
And Luke, you'll be catching up with Mr. Holyman, I think, in the Principality probably this week.
Sounds very glamorous. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And we'll see you again next week, or hear you again next week on Le Beau Jeu. Bye-bye.
Goal from Kakuta. Payet again. And Goldberg. Messi again. This time maybe Messi's done it.